Hello there. You hear me? Is there a problem with the sound or noise? I'm using the old camera because I think there's a problem with the new camera and I'm still working on it. Uh, Running. Okay. Ooh, what is going on? Yeah, it's a great line. Steve Haywood's thing. He goes, "Why can't we have Republicans like Reagan and Bush anymore?" Say people who despised Reagan and Bush when they were in office. Exactly. This is the same thing as why can't we have in Poland? Well, Wentz is a hero by the very people who used to demonize him back when he was the thing. Okay, I mean this is hilarious in that sense. Okay, what is this going on here? I got notifications. I don't want notifications. Did I get notifications? Yes, I got notifications. I got some weird ones. Move. Well, hi there, hello there. We're morning. I'm back from class. You got my teaching ID, my ID for my card to get into the classrooms. You know, the modern classroom. Kleenex because I was just doing crazy. Oh, and better be careful because people are calling sometimes just when they shouldn't call. So I'll put the silence on. Ah, so today I taught my seminar. I was all over the God. We're doing the Federalist Papers, and I was all over the place today because the themes of today on our discussions was basically what from 30 was it? No. I don't want to say the wrong information. Um, I can just go check who it is. Go check. Why don't you check? Why don't you check? Why don't you put you on hold and go check the check. No. What does it do? Me. I don't need. I can do this. I can do this in Polish. I can do this in Polish. Oh, there's that class. And what was today's? Go to the course announcements. It was Federalist Papers saying, Clifford, why aren't you able to give me the answer right now? Because, yeah, 23 to 36. Federalist number 2336, which deals with what? 23 is that classic essay on energetic government. 23 is Hamilton despising, I think it's Hamilton, Hamilton on energetic government and the need to do energetic activities. And then when he goes in this long discussion on basically addressing the question of, you know, the militia and is the national government's control of the militia a threat, and the need for a national army and things like this, the military power. It's like it goes back, and then he's defending the overall federal government's coordination of the militia, and that, and then he goes and the remaining half of the dialogue is for the rest of after he does the militia, he goes into taxing power, the question of taxing. And it's like, oh, okay, the boring things. We're going to talk about tax. That was the scary thing to talk with students about tax. Because they're all naive. They all seem, oh, taxing is just taxing. It's good. I said, no, taxing, any law is always going to be an act of violence. It's going to always have any law you make has the gun or the knife or the threat of the state behind it. And a tax is a law, is a taking, it is taking something from somebody. And therefore, there's a coercion towards it that if you don't pay it, we're going to take it from you. And if you resist, we'll bang, 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 right? And they have a naive, oh, let's have more regulations, they'll say. I had to explain to them about the case of everyone complained about all these black policemen shooting black people before George Floyd. What is that? There was a case in New York City of a street vendor who was who when the police arrested him resisted, and it went to a situation where he got killed. The guy, you know, it was maybe the police fired the weapon, or there was something like this. Something happened. There was a tussle, and that there was they feared he was going to go for a weapon or something, and they shot him. Okay, he died. The guy died. Okay, I forget the case in New York City. But you know what it was over? It was the police enforcing the big, Mail Bloomberg's new rule that you can't have 32-ounce, no 32-ounce big gulp cups. Okay, this is the problem. If you every time you have a law, you have to enforce a law. Okay, that requires violence. So every time some goody two shoes, there should be a law. So you said, okay, do you really want to have policemen use violence to uphold that law? If not, if it's an idea you'd like people to do, but you're not willing to kill to have it done, then it shouldn't be a law. Okay, that is something we should always make. So we have to talk about taxation. Taxation is a form of coercion. And that we have to understand that okay, this is why I'm not a libertarian. I believe that there's legitimate reasons. There are legitimate reasons for the community to use coercion. Okay, coercion is not de facto always unjust. This is my big bugbear about. My big fight with Varandians who argue that anything that is forced on us is wrong. No, I'm sorry. Human beings is the voluntary and the involuntary. And a lot of times all this individualism crap is, the individualist, yeah, things about individualism. Yeah, okay, funny, ha, rah, rah. I'm going to write something about individualism. And in fact, I got into a fight with Stephen Hicks. Stephen Hicks was doing something. He was talking about his enlightenment. He gave a sketch of enlightenment, and he's trying to say, enlightenment good. And I go, no, your wokeness is a product of the Enlightenment. No, wokeness is anti-enlightenment. No. The Enlightenment and the rationalism of the Enlightenment is as much a deviation from real consciousness as wokeness. In other words, you can't get wokeness until you get what you get from modern rationalism. Modern rationalism paves the way to wokeness, as you can even argue Christianity does. Okay, Christianity to a great degree does pose. It opens the door to questions of social justice, which I think that's extreme misunderstanding of Christianity in that sense. I'm a radical. I actually think the Christian message is not ethical in that sense. It has no ethics in that fundamental sense. The ethics is all are unrighteous, and that is no one is capable of doing any moral action on their own. Ultimately, this is a question of your redemption. In other words, you can't earn your way to heaven in that fundamental sense. You can't. Nothing you can do that merits your salvation. Fighting with the computer. What's going on? We had a strike. The computer had a strike. The computer had a mental breakdown. I haven't turned the computer. I've been away from my office for like a couple of days because I was feeling crappy this week. The weather here has gotten yucky. It's winter. You see the sun out there for now, but it's gray. It's kind of those couple of days of sun. We had fog this morning. It's kind of damp. It's damp and wet, and I was like, kind of like zombie man. I had to go to school today and Friday. I don't like teaching on Fridays, but I not teach on Friday for this semester. And I had to go online to my American school to do this, but we're on week 9 in the American school at Norwich, finishing up my diplomacy class, and I have a new group coming. The schedule changed. It's a disaster. And they actually changed it again. Instead of Monday through Sunday, it's going to be Sunday through Saturday. Change it. So I'm going to teach these like we teach, and we'll be teaching the same course again. but it's going to focus a weird change. I'm going to have to post, instead of post my questions on Saturdays, I'm going to have to post my advanced questions on Sundays, doing everything Saturday, and all assignments instead of doing on Sundays now are going to be due on Saturdays. Oh my God, crazy! So there's a lot of changes. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping at least I'll get some money so I can pay off my things. Those of you who don't know, I got my Lulu book has been approved for. Okay, it was no. You know what? I didn't mention it last time. So I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for not being here live last week because I had to go someplace. I had an event to be at a friend's house, and it was an event for they were retired. They were doing something, and it was a friend who's suffering from cancer, so I couldn't really avoid going because he might not be with us longer. So we did this things, and we went there, and we got home very late, but I was having a problem with Lulu, and it was basically you have to keep this, you have to have it's a technical thing. I finally figured out how to do it. I had to watch a couple of videos to do it because they don't explain things always. And it was the stupid things of changing the titles of every section, making the section header one on a Word document, make it header one. So therefore, the system, when you convert it to EPUB, will get a proper XDX file or a EDX file. I don't know that damn file. It's kind of the things on a web page that you can do. You can get the automatic page, like a table of contents, automatic thing for table of contents. So I decided to be a complete asshole, and I gave every section which had a title. I made it a thing so you can jump through all the sections of the ebook. It's available. It's not on Kindle yet, but it's. Let's look at the. Hold on. Look at what Lulu says. No. Okay, hold on. I apologize for this. I shouldn't do this. It's at the edge of. I understand the memory is probably at the edge of what I can do before the computer freezes up completely. Is doing Lulu security crap. It's giving me my login. Hold on. I'm just checking. Come on. Go into the account. Okay. I want to see the project. It's my little book is. I might just tie it to the stream. Hold on. Do. My project, its global distribution has been approved. Yay! Ooh, hold on. Okay, I don't need that. I'm going to go to. Yes, I want to get the thing. I will post the link to the new. It's like polis as the classical mode of the political. Yeah. Let's see if this is right. Hold on. Oh no, I have to go to the whole. I have to give you the whole link. Okay. It's about $5, $6, $6, $7, $6.46. Hi, Professor. Do you think you'll win the election? Okay, we got a Matt question. Let me just put the link to the book, the Lulu by Lulu. I don't know. I'm told it's global distribution. Finally, it's out. I have my little thing. So you want to support the channel? Buy the little ebook. Yeah, yay. Hi, Professor. Do you think that? Do you think who do you think will win the election based on your life? It's gonna. I mean, not by my leaders now, but I'm not. I'm just looking at it from the point of view of what the polling says. Rick Barris is probably one of the, both Rasmussen, but Rasmussen is being very careful. He's saying that he's saying that it's like that, but he's not as. Um, um, Public Polling Project, big data, Rick Barris's data. It looks going to be it looks already, if everyone says it's a +2 already, national Trump, that is, given that all the polls have been traditionally have underscored Trump by 5 to 6 points. So that means if he's +2 now or +3 now, which is some of the things are the Harris poll was. What is it? What is the Trump? What is the current? Yeah, the RCP average is plus 3.1, right? And the average was about 3 to 4 points lower, right, versus what it was. So therefore, let's go look at this from the point of view of the numbers. I'll just look at, let's go look. Let's go be Mr. Should I share the screen? I'll try to share the screen. Try to share a screen. What? Okay, it's not. I'm having a problem. My windows are probably at the peak of collapsing. Hold on there. I'm going to share the Lulu General Productions. Hold on. See if you can see it. You should see the projection there. See, you can see me, right? Now, if you look at the numbers here, this is national. Trump didn't win a 3+ number and still defeated Hillary Clinton. Now, this is not a 2020 situation. Yes, they're going to cheat. Democrats always cheat, so that's going to be, the big urban machines do have this. But the early voting is scaring everyone in this sense. And this suggests, at this stage, at this thing, this tells me it's probably going to be a very big Trump landslide in that regard, analysis-wise. So therefore, it's a you have to take a salt. Democrats are going to, the big urban political machines are going to cheat. The problem right now is the moment, this is what, I don't want to give a black pill here, but we have to understand cheating. There's not an infinite amount of cheating. Okay, you can only they can only cheat from the people who didn't vote. Okay, the register, they have to use the existing listing of people, and that if you voted, then they can't cheat you unless they. And if you go to vote and they say you voted already, they're going, "Oh, I didn't vote. Oh, what's going on here? I'm going to file a complaint." In other words, you can, and that's why right now already there are lawyers, both Republican and Democratic lawyers, are inundating the courts and completely flushing the courts about every little issue. They're going to litigate this. They're going to litigate every aspects of this debate. We're going. The courts are going to be. The problem here is the question is how political the judges will be. Technically, if there's no, in other words, the traditional argument that stopped a lot of the overturning of elections in the 2000. I mean, a lot of times the court simply just didn't want to hear it. So this, and anyone who says, "Oh, the court ruled against Trump's over appeals," no, 9 times out of 10 they just simply didn't want to hear it. Second of all, they didn't want to hear it because there was no easy redress. In other words, in any kind of civil case, this is a civil case. This is not a criminal case. This is a civil dispute. This is a dispute between parties. There needs to be a reasonable mechanism of resolution that doesn't hurt other parties. Okay, so when you want to overturn an election, well, what about the people who voted correctly? You're going to nullify their vote because of other people who acted incorrectly. So therefore, the rule is the general rule of in these kind of things is do no harm. Okay, you don't want to do any harm. You don't want to harm other people more. So therefore, this is one of the reasons why the courts didn't act in resolutions. The curling case, which was in 2020, just before the election in Georgia, where they challenged the voting machines, and in fact, this was done by the left in that sense, who was very distrustful of the system, and they had a lot of academics and activist groups coming to be as kind of experts to kind of do this. Is ironically the opposite of what happened when the Trump people tried challenging it. All the academics said, no. The academics who argued the same position that the Trump people argued, all of a sudden didn't want to testify. This is the hypocrisy of such people, who they testified when it was a Democrat that this was the case. Trump people wanted them to testify the same thing, that this was the case, that these weakness, but no. See, that's the hypocrisy of that situation. The curling case was a very interesting situation because the judge basically says, and in fact, that's why a lot of the reform that happened in Georgia about their voting things is about it was, and why it was moved to the thing, because the court actually ruled that there was suspicion, that there was problems with the voting machine, but there just wasn't enough time to fix it. There was no solution. In other words, a judge couldn't say, okay, no, this machine can't be used, because there was no alternative solution set up to deliver, to be able to. See, that's the limits of judges. What judges cannot make in a civil. And remember, this will be a civil dispute. So therefore, there's limits to how judges can do. You cannot say, well, this is I can't. If there's time for the government or the agencies to then go do something, they can say go do it. But if it's only like a week or 2 weeks away, there's not. The argument is, I'm sorry, there's not enough time. There's not enough time to make a correction or fix it. So therefore, this leads to the inaction of these things, in that sense. Again, I put the link there. I'm going to shut down my. Hold on, did I shut down already? I did it. I was a good boy. I shut it down. I don't have the share screen anymore. Yay! Hurrah! So you asked me, Matt 44.4 asked me who was going to win. Well, I mean, Trump never did this good on the polls. If Trump loses now, this is going to be scandalous. Okay, this is because you can argue that Trump in 2020, Trump was not Biden was head. Even though you can point to the bellwether districts that really indicated elections, the problem was even as the Time magazine article said, fortification, which means the Democratic urban machine, political machines, went overtime to make sure that voters, and because many people didn't go to vote, there was a lot of people who either just, I mean, people who were Trump people who were disenfranchised. Enough didn't work. I mean, there was big turnout, huge turnout. But then what happened was there was still a lot of people who didn't turn out. Now, what's happening now is earlier elections. The early voting is really scaring Democrats. Why? Because usually Democrats win early voting. What's happening now? Basically, they like, it's like 4 to 5 to 1 early voting. Okay, what's happening now is almost for every Democrat there's like 2 Republicans, which never happens this way. The Republicans are out for every 2 Democrats there's 3, so it's like 2 Republicans to 1 Democrat, or 3 Republicans to 2 Democrats. Okay, this never happens at this kind of level of early voting, and this is Nevada, this is Georgia. Now, some people said the Georgia numbers, there was this thing, but that's deceptive because they were saying that Trump was doing not as well, but that's a relative term. So you have to look at Georgia, you have to look at places like this, even in places like already in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, there's really concerns of voter turnout, early vote, wherever there is early voting. Right now, what's happening is apparently the Trump people did a very good job. And I think this is where the money, I mean, by the way, this is Elon Musk's money is going directly into getting vote out. And this is very much echoing what's his name? Facebook. I forget his name. My brain is. Come on, what's his name? Lizard Boy. Facebook. The Facebook guy gave lots of money for Democratic activists to get the vote out. Now, he didn't do it this year because he's under pressure. He's under kind of look. He feels guilty about what his corporation. He got cornered, and Facebook and Meta is getting clobbered in this. And even though Elon has lost a lot of money, but X has lost value because of the inflated, the previous X people, Twitter people have inflated the value. He overpaid for, in other words, it was, Twitter was not as valuable as it was assessed at. The number of bots and he's kind of clean. He has done a very good job cleaning out Twitter and making it a much better platform. And I think this is going to be the big shock. And I think his money helping it, and the other people who've been donating money is getting the voter turnout. And we've seen huge voter. And if the Republicans have a big day if the Republicans also have a huge turnout on election day, which is what? It's November 4th. I think it's November 4th. I voted already. It was. Yeah, it's Tuesday. No, election. No, it's not the 4th of November. It's the 5th of November. Hold on. Yeah, 5th of November. 5th of November. So, voila, that's it. So that's your hype. I got something published, my riddle of the middle from the Poznan, called Polish Political Science Review, published at Poznan. They published my piece. Yay, it's out finally. Yay, it's 3 months late. 4 months late, right? Maybe I would have liked to have it out. I didn't get any credit for it this year. I didn't get any award because I didn't get it. They posted too late. So maybe next year I'll get a reward. Another thing is the Minnetonkan published my piece on the fort. what else did I got out? Yeah, Steve Haywood has published my Quango piece, my little thing about Quangos. You can see it on his political question. And then what else happened? I'm going to pressure. Someone said they were going to print it. My thing on basically the warrior, how equality and the Christianity and the warrior spirit were not. This argument that Christianity is anti the warrior spirit. I wrote a very good piece about the interconnection of this, and I sent it. I sent it the first things, and they didn't really want it. They were because they're afraid of anything that's what they consider talking about war or spirit, because they're kind of running away from what they call the alt right, which I think is hilarious. The people at Imaginative Conservative said they liked it. One of the guys. Now I'm not sure the other guy will. They might just take. I haven't heard anything from them. I haven't heard a damn word from Paul Seaton, who was kind of pissy about the thing. He didn't like. I had to rewrite my review for him on Benetton's book on Machiavelli. I admit it was my fault, the first review, because I wrote it more from the point of view of what does he teach us about Machiavelli, and Baton does criticize Machiavelli, and I didn't really highlight that in the first one. And then I therefore rewrote it, and it's been 3 weeks. I haven't heard one way or the other. Is he going to publish it or not? Did he publish it or not? Is he going to pass on it? Interpretation passed on my. And I can understand why they passed. I think they wanted a much longer review for my Kingship piece. But then what happened was Vogel & View said they'd publish it, and I said, okay, great, with Vogel & View. I have something on Oakshott going out to a Kronos, a Polish journal, but I think it's going to get rejected because it doesn't have references. I need to finish my Alan Benesoit piece on Benesoit's early 1990 piece on sovereignty, where he critiques he talks about the road not taken of sovereignty. That's the Bodin Hobbes path is the road taken. He then talks about the Lucius and the idea of the more federated understanding of sovereignty. And it was I always loved this piece. When it first came out, I loved it. But the problem with Alain Benesoit is he's ethno-nationalist. He's also anti-Christian. He's kind of on the European new right, nouveau right, right? Benesoit is a very interesting people. He does stuff on paganism and this, and he's part, the so-called new right, all the alt-right people liked him and ethno-national like him. So therefore, I think I want to send this piece to the history of European ideas, but I need more footnotes. I have to go and do this. I have to spend some time with the footnotes. My article on the intersection of the political and social form is almost ready. I have to make fix some notes on it. I have about maybe 2 or 3 weeks work of that there, and once that's done, I think I will send it to the journal. I want to do it. I have a thing on sports that I've given to my friend Steve Haywood to look at on athletics and civic responsibility. And I want to publish it at a serious. I want to get that published at a serious. Okay, I don't want to piss off my friends at Baton and other places, but I would like to get it. I would like a wider, more political science audience or civic understanding people to be more open to this piece, because I think this is an important argument about the role sports, youth education, youth sports plays in building civic leaders and civic social trust. We're missing people. Oh, everyone's gone. Oh my God, they all ran away already. Oh no. We're still here, and there's no one here. Oh God! All popped in and popped out. Mm. Uh, Yucca, 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 yucca. Oh, give me the home in the powder brown. Say what's going on. So, what else is there in that sense? So I'm getting heavily the publishing process is getting work. Um, yeah, we'll see what happens. Let me see. Now, let me talk about something. Um, that's the thing. So let's talk about the thing today. Um, 6 hours ago, Cortlitz, my one of my people who watch us all the time, he previous week he put something up there and he reposted it. And he goes, in terms of possible topic, is there an interesting discussion in one of the political questions articles about the famous? He's talking about the political question article on by Steve Hayward that who's published two of my pieces. He republished my Lafort piece on Lafort and Minot, and then he published my little piece on Quangos, which I kind of even made a stupid video. I have to admit this. I admit I played with an AI. I used an AI maker, and in fact I should do it again. I should make another AI video just to play with it a little more. I'm a cheapo. I'm not going to spend money on things I'm not going to. So I should use the AI one more time to build another video. I build one on Pufendorf versus Locke, which I had fun doing. Making a video on Pufendorf versus Locke. I have something. I might do something on book one of Aristotle, book one of the politics. We might say that. That's going to be the fun thing. But now but back to Corlitz's question here, and I want to go back to him. He goes, the political question article about the famous Strauss-Kojève debate about tyranny, historicism, and natural right. Also, in the UK this week, there's been a lot of discussion of issues of reparations of the Caribbean islands are asking a lot of money due to past slavery and are using the Commonwealth Leaders Summit to draw attention to it. The sums being discussed seem a little bit implausible, and the issue seems more political than legal. Could the Commonwealth end up being more of a problem than something beneficial? I asked a similar question last week, but I didn't get time for that. Now, I think the Commonwealth, I'm Mr. Greenglass, I think the Commonwealth is a waste of time. I agree with Margaret Thatcher. Thatcher thought the Commonwealth was a bunch of mungo jungle bumble blue. Now go read what Thatcher thought. That these are thugs, these are kleptocrats. Most of the Commonwealth is ruled by criminals, kleptocrats, tyrants, and thugs. Now Keith Starmer's no better, but in fact, this is destroying the association with such people leads to this concept regression to the mean. So England is becoming more third world. The Commonwealth has not been a benefit for England. No, but it was a benefit for trade and commerce and blah blah blah. All the Boris Johnson crap. Oh, it's our great trade relationship. No, yes, because it's cheap labor. But it's crappy labor too. It's crappy cheap labor. Why don't you build things in England? You have a skilled population that can do. Well, it's cheaper to do it in India, Pakistan. Well, you get what you pay for. This is and the problem with much of the Commonwealth today is that it's a, hey, you owe me, you owe me. Why the fuck? Cut the Commonwealth strings. England should just cut the Commonwealth string. This forced Charles to say, Charles, sorry, you want to be king of Bongo land? Go ahead. But no, the English people ain't going to pay for it anymore. Sorry. Get the fuck out of Dodge and stop accepting them in there and deport a whole bunch of them back. I don't care, they're British subjects. So, not if you're going to be attacking England or attacking the country, attacking the things. You have all these Pakistani types and Indian people. And there was this video about this Indian person from India criticizing England, saying, I'd rather go back. Well, then go fuck back to India, bitch. Why? Because you're not English. You're not really English. Quit pretending you are an English citizen. You're not English. You are Hindustani or whatever ethnicity you are. Ed Dutton is right about this. Ed Dutton is completely right about this. Let's not confuse ethnicity or even race with citizenship. Just because you are a citizen of the country doesn't mean you're ethnically that country, unless you have absorbed the actual the ethic, the cultural identity that ethnic population advances. But that's white supremacy. Oh, white supremacy. Who cares? Yes. Guilty. We're white. I'm English. I'm not English, I'm American, but I'm of English descent, English and Greek descent, okay? A little bit of Indian also, American and Native American. The culturally, however, I'm very New England. We're New England. Our cultural identity and our habits and our structure creates this. Now, can a person who is African or that adapt an English lifestyle and adapt the values and beliefs and habits? Yes. But how about when they're that, but what is English values? What are these values? It's not, in fact, we're English. No. What about British? You see, there's a problem expressing themselves in the Israel, Gaza, Lebanon. No, that's not. You can see that they hate England. They hate everything. The Gaza situation is just another excuse that they can blame on it. They have this idea of colonizer and the oppressor and the oppressed. This is the mistake. They don't understand Foucault. If you understood Foucault, there's no escape from the oppressor-oppressed diagram. In other words, if you flip it, you just have the oppressor now becomes the oppressed the oppressor, and the oppressed becomes the oppressed. You don't escape oppressor-oppression in Foucault, and if you understand Foucault's lifestyle, if you understand Foucault's personal lifestyle, he liked getting it up the butt and getting beat the crap out of S&M, man. He liked it that way. He liked getting buggered and whipped and beat up. So, therefore, you're getting raped and buggered up, man. So just sit back and enjoy it. That's the true teaching of Foucault, based on how he lived. If we're going to approach people's thought by the Foucaultian approach was that we approach the thought by our lives, right? We approach the person's ideas and thoughts by how they lived them and how they understood them. So if we apply that to Foucault's understanding of power, we get that. I'm probably going to get, someone's going to file a strike against us for saying this. But no, that's the reality of Foucault in that sense. He's a buddy. We know of each other. Glenn Elmers has a little piece about Foucault in the Compact. You have to pay to get access to it. It sucks. The Compact is one of these magazines that pay for access. And it's like, why bother? No, not Fisted by Foucault. Fisted by Foucault is an asshole. He's a leftist. He's Fisted by Foucault is a diehard Foucaultian, and I don't, I don't agree with Fist. I mean, listen, I have a problem with Foucault. Foucault is he has a critique, but he offers no solution. Okay, if you're gonna I believe in being honest. The problem with Foucault is Foucault doesn't offer a solution out of the hellscape he creates. In fact, he accepts a kind of because he embraced everything as a power dynamic and understands everything as a power dynamic, and through the idea of the oppressed and the oppressor, this power dynamic offers no resolution. And given that everything is coercion, everything is will to power. Everything. Therefore, speech is will to power. Language is violence, right? This is the Derridian and the postmodern. Oh, your words can hurt me. I have to have a space, right? I can't hear. Free speech is violent. Hate speech, man. You can't, I can't be offended. And, this is the kind of silliness that this thinking creates. It creates a world where there can only be raper and rapey. No outward, no outward answer. So that's a hellscape. I don't choose to live in such a world. I don't want to live in such a world. And if we have to deal with people who think that's the way it is, the only way you deal with them is locking them up in mental institutions. Pornell was right about this, though. But Pornell's attitude about this was, we lock them up in mental institutions. Or no. His solution is actually his Inferno with Jerry Niven, where it's in hell. They're all going to go to hell, and they're going to suffer in hell. And the solution is that if you know your way out of hell, if you read, if Dante's right, and if that's the way it is, and everyone's going to go to hell anyways, right? The way out of hell is to go follow the path of Dante out of hell, follow the path of Jesus out of hell. And that's the joke about that, right? That's go read Larry Niven's and Jerry Pournelle's. It's a science fiction book, but it's, that's also the other lesson. If you watch I don't want to get into it. Pournelle was absolutely right about this thing. But I want to go back to Corlitz's asking. He wants me to talk about the Strauss-Vogelen, Strauss-Vogelen. Strauss and Kojève debate. Okay, I have to go get my copy I have it here, an old one from high college. It was published, this is my copy from 1993. See how old it is. Is it going to fall out? Yeah, it's going to. Oh, how old it is. No. This is the Leo Strauss Club. I also even have someplace here, someplace over there hiding the Cornell edition. This is the Free Press one. And now there's even the University of Chicago after that. The Free Press was like, what? When was this done? 1990. And this was the redo. It was originally done in Free Press 63. Careful. In 1991, they did this. This was issued in 1990s. And then the University of Chicago reissued it like in the 2000s or late 90s. What's so interesting about this was also has the correspondence between expanded edition, revised edition, expanded. It expanded because it has the correspondence between Strauss and Kojève. So who's Strauss? Leo Strauss, German Jews, actually a student of Cassirer, wrote his dissertation on Cassirer, studied but attended Heidegger seminars and hung out with Heidegger students. And his best friend Klein was a Heidegger student. He studied also with, because he also studied with. He was a close friend to Rosenzweig, and the German Jewish. Not he knew Rosenzweig, and the Zionists at. Today it's Wrocław, back then it's Breslau. Breslau was the center city of this. Strauss very much was influenced by. He was an academic. He wrote his dissertation at Kassir, but because he was Jewish, he was excluded from the university track in Germany of the time in the 20s, and even before the Kaiser, there was very few Jews allowed. Strauss was very much influenced by the Neo-Kantian. He was respecting and was going to criticize the Neo-Kantians, but Cohen was the very big part of German Jewish thought and Neo-Kantian thought. So there's this whole question of who Strauss is. Strauss basically was a young Zionist who was he was not a cultural Zionist. He was a political Zionist. He hung out with Zabletsky and the activist who was more right wing. It's more right wing versus left wing. He's more a man of the right. And one of the things that led, and in fact, he was very close with, he knew Martin Buber, and he knew this Rosenzweig in the German English, the German edition of the Hebrew Bible. Buber and Rosenzweig both did. He was involved with the Zionist youth movement and education movement. He wrote articles for them. He taught at the adult education facilities that teach young Jews about Jewish identity and Jewish nationalism. But then at the same time, he was very much interested. He was not a liberal in this sense. He was a Jew and a man of the right, but at the same time, a man of the right. That's why Jablonski, not the other ones. He was very hostile to culture. He really disliked cultural Zionism. He thought that it was not and as a World War I vet, he did his military service. He didn't get a Mayan course or anything, but he did his military service at that and went back to university. Strauss's big insight was that he was interested in. First of all, his second book that is would have been his habilitation if he was an academic. It was published by Schwatkin, the Jewish publisher, on Spinoza and Critique of Religion. He had another book issued on philosophy and law, which like this, and he was working on Hobbes. He was very much interested in Hobbes. And he was also he got into a dispute. He was one of a reviewer of Schmidt's early volume of his Concept of the Political. In fact, he wrote Schmidt he wrote a review, relatively positive review, but he had suggestions that Schmidt took seriously, as Heinrich Meyer's book about this clearly indicates. But back to Kojève. Kojève and Strauss met while they were in Paris. Schmidt wrote a letter recommendation for Strauss to get a Rockefeller grant to go first to France, then to England to do a research on Hobbes. Okay, Strauss will write a very famous book in the 30s that's translated by. It was respected and introduced by Ernest Barker, the major league English political thinker at the time, on Hobbes. In fact, this is the big thing now. And Kojève was already, by this time, Kojève was a Russian immigrant who went to Paris, who kind of met Heidegger through lectures in Germany, but because he was a Russian Jew, he was, but not a religious Jew, but a cultural Jew, and not even cultural Jew, he's an intellectual. But he was kind of a red, okay? Not openly red, but red fanboy. Studied with Husserl and studied with Heidegger. Was very much, and then when he went to Paris, like 28, 20 something, he wrote a very big lecture, a series of lectures. He did his habilitation in Germany, um, and France. I think he got the award in that. And then he did a series of lectures. But then Kojève became more famous in the sense he wrote this. In fact, Kojève's lectures on Hegel, on the philosophy of spirit, was very much revolutionary and important for shaping much of the postmodern left. Okay, it will be those lectures will shape Derrida, and even not so much Foucault, later Foucault, but Derrida, Lacan, all those writers, all the postmodern left that everyone champions, their really conceptual origins as much from, yes, Heidegger, but Kojève will be important for this. Now, Kojève and Strauss were always friends, as the letters they met when Strauss was in Paris. They had a correspondence. They kind of liked each other personally, even if they were totally different personalities. Kojève was a ladies' man. He was notorious. He was a man of the women, man of ladies. He would chase the girls, chase the skirts. And Strauss was not that. Strauss was hardly that. Strauss does court and win a widow of in fact, there's a Joey. Maybe there's this whole question of whether he seriously tried courting Hannah Arendt or not. That's a little debate, and then the argument is Arendt's account. The account by the Arendt scholars seems to suggest that Arendt spurned him for his right-wing views. That he said, it's a shame that the people you have most in common with have nothing but hatred for you, I mean the Nazis. This has always led to the thing of a Strauss is really a Nazi, right? A pseudo-Nazi. This is the argument of the German Stranger by, I know the guy, he wrote the book about the German Stranger by Heidegger, about Strauss, but Strauss is really secretly a Nazi, which is a slander against Strauss. Strauss is not a Nazi. And I know the scholar who did it, and he's not a scholar, he's a psycho guy. He has an anti-Strauss. He did it. He tried doing a doctoral at Toronto, got kicked out of Toronto. He had a chip on his shoulder. He basically goes to the third. He writes these books that Roman Littlefield decided. He writes like a 4-volume set on Plato. He's writing 3 books on Heidegger, Heidegger and Hegel and Strauss. He's written like these months. He has diarrhea of the pen. He has complete diarrhea of the pen. He can write this big, but just he can write. He has easy write. I've had the opposite. I've always been a much more. Right. For me, writing is a constipation. For him, I forget. I'm not going to mention his name because it's. I can't remember it offhand, but this idea that Strauss is a Nazi. This is the lie Hannah Arendt kind of, or her circle kind of hit it up. Kojève stays in France, supports the. Remember, this is why Kojève's little essay, A Notion of Authority, which I did a video series on. He supports the Vichy government and the idea with the Vichy government. After the war ends, he'll get a job in the French civil service as part of the restructuring. He will be very much influential on the circuit for France. The Gaullist people, the Gaul, used him as the principal negotiator for what would become, was GATT, the GATT treaty. There was a joke about GATT. Every country had, every provision of the GATT treaty, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, there was supposed to be, most countries had like a dozen experts, one for every single clause or every division, where France had Kojève, who was master of all, right? Kojève became kind of this bureaucrat and the Gaullist ministries. And then he dies in 1968. The same time, Gaul leaves basically power. He dies of a heart attack. Kojève does. But in the 1950s, there is this Strauss, in 1946-47, Strauss produces a little book. It will be called On Tyranny, the first edition on tyranny. It is a translation by Alan Fuller, who is a professor at, he was a professor at, it was a book published while Strauss was still at, in 1946, 47, I forget, I'm getting the dates wrong, at New School. He hasn't got his interview yet to go to Chicago. That will be what, in just before 50, like 40, 58, 59. So it's right. The war has ended. He's still at New School in New York. Strauss publishes a translation. It's a translation and commentary on Xenophon's Hero, which is a discussion with Socrates. It's a Xenophon dialogue between a poet, Simonides, and the tyrant Hiero, the Syracusan tyrant. And that's the name of it. It's just the title of the Greek in the Greek is Hero, but the subtitle is On Tyranny. And Strauss, the publisher, decides this instead of doing Hero on the Hero. The original publisher had a translation by Alan Hofer, one of the professors who could do Greek, but also as a professor at the New School. And a more administrator, they get the book published. I think it was published by, it may be originally published at a free press. I forget. I don't know the original. What is it? Not 63. I don't have the date. I don't have the generic bibliographic information down. I apologize. But it's like 46. It's a book. It's a little book. It has a weird translation by Aaron Hoffer. The one that I have here has a new translation by Seth Benedetti. And I think even the Benedetti one is even in the Cornell reprint that happens in the 60s, the 1670s, that Bloom's basically gets and reprinted, the second edition. Because the first book only has the translation of the Hero by the other person and Strauss's commentary on it. Strauss sends this to Kojève, hoping that Kojève will get it reviewed, and he'll review it for the French. Okay. And Kojève does, reading the letters will tell you the story about this. Kojève is kind of doing other things and doing a lot of things, and he's busy. He wants to go to America. Strauss goes to Chicago by this time and tries to get a job, maybe a visiting professorship for Kojève. It kind of was going to work out, but then it fell through. There's a lot of plots here going back and forth. Strauss, but there's a kind of conspiracy. Kojève writes a review through the networks. It was going to be put someplace, but then the fight between the kind of existentialist fight, in the French theory, there was this fight. Sartre and those guys really were kind of bullies, and Kojève was bigger than them in that sense, but at the same time couldn't be bothered with them. And that Mario Ponte and they got into spits about things. So he published a review, and then they said, "Why don't we publish I'm going to publish it. I'm going to publish my own." The review is basically the review is what? The review is monstrous. It's a significant. This is why it's in here. It will be called. Tyranny and Wisdom. It first appeared in 1950 in the journal Critique. The title was called L'Action politique des philosophies. So l'action politique des philosophies in critique, 1950, issue 6, pages 46 to 55, and then 138 to 155. The more expanded version, subsequently published in the title Tyranny and Wisdom, admits, however, the original paragraph of the original article. And he goes, in a brilliant and original paragraph, and they put it in the footnote here, he goes, in a brilliant and impassioned book, but in the guise of a calmly objective work of scholarship, Strauss interprets Xenophon's dialogue in which a tyrant and a wise man discuss the advantages and disadvantages of exercising tyranny. He shows us wherein the interpretation of a work differs from a mere commentary of our analysis. Through his interpretation, Xenophon appears to us no longer the somewhat dull and flat author we know, but a brilliant and subtle writer, an original and profound thinker. What is more, in interpreting this forgotten dialogue, Strauss lays bare the great moral and political problems. He has searched through the maze of a dialogue for the true meaning of Xenophon's teaching. Xenophon presumably took care to hide it from the view of the vulgar. Strauss therefore had to resort to the method of the detective who, by his subtle interpretations of the apparent facts, finally finds the criminal. To tell the truth, the temptation is great in the end to deny the discovery. Indeed, the book cannot end as detective novels do, with the unmasked criminal's confession. Let the reader judge. However, it matters only incidentally to know whether the interpretation is irrefutable. For the importance of Strauss's book goes well beyond Xenophon's authentic and perhaps unknown thoughts. It owes its importance to the importance of the problem which it discusses, which is tyranny and wisdom. Now, I'm over my hour, and I said I'd talk about this. The problem with this dialogue, the Strauss-Kojève debate, is about the question of tyranny and wisdom, and the question of this. Now, also, there's another question. It's the fight. There's a bigger debate. There's the debate of the book, but then there's a debate between Strauss and Kojève about the correspondence. And what Kojève is famous for, we all know Kojève only through Fukuyama. Francis Fukuyama is in his last man in the, now Kojève believes in the universe globalization. Oh, he is the man who gave us GATT, supported GATT. The idea of he's behind the people, the voices that created the EU. He believed in transnational government. His interpretation of Hegel is that Hegel in the phenomenology of mind gives us the existential structure of all political reality, that none are free, one is free, few are free, more are free, most are free, all are free. That there was this master-slave dialectic that is introduced in the introduction of the phenomenology of Geist, phenomenology of spirit, is then the model to understand historical structures of existence for the of history and development. Therefore, the inevitability of once you have the state, you will have the global state, because the state, being a product of will, leads us to the conception of consenting of wills, and therefore this only leads us to the idea of the homogeneous will of the structure. See, in other words, once you accept the modern constructions of the modern state from Hobbes, see, this is why Strauss was interested in Hobbes to understand the origins of modern thought. Now, Strauss thought it was Hobbes was the big break moment. And I still think Hobbes is the most radical moment. It is later Strauss will then realize that no, it's Machiavelli who gives the original big break. The radical starts the break, and Hobbes is a radical next step that launches. But after Hobbes, it's only Hobbes, Rousseau, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, Kant, Hegel, Marx. In other words, just a straight trajectory. One can argue that, what is that line from Whitehead, Alfred North Whitehead? All philosophy is a footnote to Plato. For Strauss, we can argue that Hegel was wrong. The idea that that Napoleon, the end of history, is found with Hegel at the end of history, or the idea that Napoleon is well, no, the end of history begins with Locke, Hobbes ends history. The social contract ends philosophy. In other words, the end of history is the end of philosophy. When does the end of philosophy happen? The idea is, Hegel argues that it ends with Napoleon. Right? The end of history is this. The end of history being with Napoleon's conquering of Jena. This is that moment. His random. The idea that this is the idea. Actually, this is the idea that the Hobbesian absolute state wins and destroys the feudal order, and this is what Hegel means by that. And therefore, Hegel and Hobbes are kind of mirrors to each other in this sense. And even Kojève sees this. And they say, oh, that's why Kojève is very interested in Strauss's Hegel. Not Hegel, sorry. Strauss is interested in Kojève's Hegel, and because his interpretation is echoing his understanding of what's going on, and he agrees with the dangers of where it goes. Strauss, now the difference is, Kojève likes this. He wants the end of history. He thinks this is inevitable. Let's go. Let's have the homogeneous world state, right? The homogeneous world state. Strauss says, no, that's only going to end in tyranny. In other words, that will be the end of humanity. That is the end point of man's human freedom. That man can only find the freedom in the conception of the polises and political states or nations, in a sense. In other words, diversity. These diverse, small or mid-size political systems that are heterogeneous. That homogeneity, if you understand political worlds as a universal homogeneous, if the state is a willing construct and it's a product of wills, then the universal, if rule is going to be universal and homogeneous, remember, wills are always homogeneous. If you can't have if you have think about a will or a consciousness or a willing agent that has a conflicted will. This is schizophrenia, okay? This is a schizophrenic. This, by the way, this is why postmoderns like they like schizophrenia, and they embrace the multiplicity of the will, because like the multiplicity of personality, because this is freedom. Because the postmodern sees the Hobbesian unification, homogeneity as tyranny. See, this is where Strauss and the postmoderns agree against the moderns, that the modern homogenization of the will is tyrannical. It can only lead to tyranny. The difference is the postmoderns fundamentally stick with the conception that it's the will, that everything is agency of will. In other words, they accept the very principle that will lead them to the place they despise, and they're not willing to return to a human nature that is not will. That it's a human nature that is an object. Now, will, desire plays a role in it, but it's not. It is not the will is the agent of the number one agency of it. The soul, in other words, the idea of the soul or the mind, in the Greek idea of the psyche, is understood in this way. And so, in other words, in many ways, Strauss is arguing we need to recover the Greeks, recover the pre-modern understanding of the soul, so that we can judge, critique, and see the pathology that modern thought, modern political thought, modern philosophy takes us down. And that the postmoderns are right to reject the Enlightenment and rational modernity. but they're wrong. And I arguing that there's in other words, after there's a post. No, you need to return only by returning to the older one. Not that you can go back in that sense, and we go back to that stage, but just correct for it. In other words, it's not a post, but it's alternative. It's understanding what do you like about the. There's some good things about modernity. It's not see the whole thing. Modernity as a whole is not all bad, but the problem is if you go down the pathway, the logical pathway that modernity took. The early modern thinkers and early modern thinkers from Descartes, Hobbes, this whole tradition. You go down that pathway, you will only get tyranny. And that's the answer. In that famous letter, Strauss will say to Kojève, hey, Kojève, how isn't Kojève loved to quote that passage from the Communist Manifesto that about man would have, that Marx, they give that passage about man in the communist state is able to after work to go go fishing and enjoy life and like this. And this is the thing. And Strauss goes to, how is that not, I mean, how is there thought? There's no thought. I mean, Kojève then will correct in the second edition of his Hegel lecture, will basically agree that there's no thought, that the end of history, philosophy is dead, and that humans don't have, there's no room for philosophy anymore. There's not going to be one with the end of history. There's no room for philosophy anymore. So Strauss then goes to this saying, well, if you accept that point, how isn't what you talk about, the last man, the end of history, not Nietzsche's last man? Strauss's Kojève refused. Kojève never fully responds to that. And that's the Strauss-Kojève debate in a nutshell. Why it's so significant. It is the globalism versus localism debate. Strauss sides with the idea of you need to have diverse, small political systems, multiplicity of them. Why? To preserve freedom. In other words, there's never going to be anything that's homogeneous. The reality is that it's never going to be free. It'll always be, if you have a universal homogeneous system, it will always be tyrannical. Why? Because it's not everyone is going to, there's no room for the individual, no room for the thing like that. I don't want to get involved with the individual. What I'm saying is, in other words, this is the false dichotomy of either individualism or it's global corporatist, universal homogenous state, man. One people, humanity, rah. See, the problem is humanity is not broad enough of a political thing to have a political meaning. Our real meanings and our real identity are localized and specified. So Strauss's critique of this modern thought is that you can't once you go on the modern pathway, you're taken to an extreme that will only lead to tyranny. Now Kojève embraces this. Strauss warns that, saying, well, there's no philosophy. Well, there's the Japanese. That's Kojève's little answer, the Japanese. You can have entertainment. You get anime, man. Anime. You get anime, man. You can have a hentai and anime. You can have all these wonderful things. You don't have humanity anymore. You don't have men. You don't have humanity. You have perversion only. Okay, that is what you get with, and this is what my response to Mr. Mr. Hicks is he hates postmodernism, but he likes enlightenment. Don't you understand? You get that because of that. You get postmodernism because of Hegel, Kant, and Hobbes, and Locke, Okay, that's it. I'm over. I'm an hour over my hour, way over my hour. I think we've had a couple people on and off, and there's only one person left. If you like the thing, hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. We have 4 likes, and maybe more people should like it. I hope Corliss likes what I talked about the Strauss-Kojève debate. And maybe if he asks me more specific questions, I will answer them, please, about this, because I think this debate has been overdone. This whole argument has been dug to death. There's been more articles, dissertations, and theses on this than anything else in the world over the past 30 years. And I think this is, I think it's important debate in that sense, but it's misunderstood also. And I think Strauss is misunderstood. This is why, it was that crazy, that Indian woman who hated Strauss, Shidra Jury. Shidra Jury then wrote a book about Kojève. Oh, Kojève, this is bad. All her books were extremely. Her book on Strauss was only slightly bad. The second book on Strauss was completely off base and hysterically crazy. This is what led the guy. Forget his. I know his name. Oh God, he's called Strauss. He wrote a book called Straussophobia, which is a very good book of talking about all these people who had this kind of extreme irrational phobic attitude towards Strauss. And there's this kind of like this, and they distort him and misrepresent him. That was big. It was a big problem in the early 2000s because the Straussians were responsible for the war on terror nonsense. No. Straussians are neocons. Some were, some weren't. Many weren't. Some were liberals. Many of them were liberals. Many of them were New Deal liberals, and many New Deal liberals became neocons, yes. A lot of them were Jews. A lot of them were not Jews. A lot of them some were Catholics. The Straussians were, Strauss's students were a very diverse bag. Many of them were left. Kendall says rightly, the leftists went, the leftists who, Strauss was a cure for leftists of leftism. So you had a whole bunch of atheist Jews who were leftists. Strauss cures them of that thing. He makes them train to philosophy. He does what Plato, what Socrates does to Glaucon. Glaucon wants to be a big sharp politician in the Athenian thing. Can't do it. He's not that bright. He's too dangerous. Socrates wants him to turn to philosophy. He introduces philosophy as an alternative path that because this is the same thing Alcibiades. He tried to influence Alcibiades towards philosophy to make him a tyrant. No, to stop. Socrates doesn't want to make a tyrant. See, Socrates is something apolitical. Even though he wants to be a good citizen, he thinks all politics is ultimately bad. All politics is always going to be unjust. That every city there is going to be always unjust. So therefore, if you really want justice, then you would try to avoid doing unharm to others, and therefore do philosophy. This way you can pursue. Don't pursue politics. Don't pursue rule. Pursue this idea that you're going to do less harm. Search the truth. Search the reality. See that the political realm isn't the highest realm. Right? That's the Platonic position. And Strauss is ultimately a Platonist in this regard, in that sense. So that's it. If you liked it, hit the like button. Sorry, we'll do this. Please, you can always buy my books. You can always subscribe. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. We're at 217. I think that's okay. 218, 217 would be. I'd like to grow some more, but who knows? You can buy my books if you want to help me do this, or be a member of a Subscribe Star Patreon. These are the ways to help the channel. Okay, take care. I do it next week. I'm going to hope to do it. Next week is the 1st of November, All Souls Eve, All Saints Day. Um, so I won't be in class, so I'll have time to do this. Okay, take care. Bye bye, and have a great one. See you later. Bye bye.